Hello everyone, this is Timothy Mark with Alexandria.
Howdy doody everybody.
And we are Tickle Trunk of Horrors, and the website is tickletrunkofhorrors.com. The Gmail is tickletrunkofhorrors@gmail.com. And that theme song was by Ryan Daugherty out of the UK. He has a website called ryandaugherty-music.com. So you want to check that out for sure. Today we got a guest that likes to travel around and give reviews on different restaurants and eateries that are haunted. And so Alexandria, give us a little more information on her.
Absolutely. Today on Tickle Trunk of Horrors podcast, we have Amanda Limpert joining us. And Amanda sort of runs Spook-Eats. And really what that is, it's a blog that is dedicated to travel, food, and of course, we can't forget a little bit of paranormal, supernatural
paranormal, supernatural fun.
I was just about to say paranormal, supernatural, and it was just like something tightened in my throat, and I was just about to say thrown in the mixer the ingredients just for fun. That was super freaky, but not totally unusual in what we do, folks. And really, Amanda is Amanda says she's a huge travel buff. She's a foodie. I mean, who isn't in life? Who doesn't like food? I love food. And a lover of all things strange, unusual, supernatural, paranormal. So we're going to talk to Amanda from Spook-Eats very shortly on some of her escapades, places, foods, and spirits that she's kind of ran across on her treks through North America.
Yeah, and I'd like to bring up something about two people who live in Nova Scotia who have been trolling us for, actually, July would make 2 years now.
Well, you know what? We have also, other than spooks, ghosts, demons following us, we have two live, I call them trolls. Following us as well.
And we haven't paid attention to anything they've been doing in the last 2 years, but here's what it boils down to. There's a lady. The lady's name is Jolie.
Her name is Joelle.
Her name is Joelle, and so I'm not going to get the last name, but what I will tell you is she lives in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and she works at the Circle K. And what it boils down to is Alexandria went to Canada for an event up there that she was giving a speech at, and the guy came up to her basically hitting on her right in front. Her boyfriend was hitting on Alexandria right in front of Joelle. And so after the event, she came back to the States, and the guy started making inappropriate comments. So Alexandria knew Joelle for quite some time. She'd been a 40-something-year-old woman that was still living with her parents and low self-esteem, but she got with this guy. And so this guy's name is Chris. Well, Chris started making inappropriate comments towards Alexandria. So Alexandria contacted Joelle, let her know, and because her self-esteem is so low, she continues to put up with it. Well, this guy Chris, for whatever reason, has been harassing us for actually 2 years now. And he'll make inappropriate comments on our Twitters or YouTube channel or whatever. And it's to the point now that we have sufficient evidence that it's actually just pure harassment. The guy is a security guard in Nova Scotia. I don't know how he became a security guard, because if you ever seen him physically, he don't look like he can stop anything but a donut. That's it. The guy has made several threats to us over the last 2 years. Has definitely made a lot of inappropriate comments, cussing, a lot of threats and things of that nature. But the guy's a coward because he's hiding behind a computer screen. This is an individual that would never say this to our face. He would only say it behind a computer screen. And so we're just sick of it now. We are absolutely sick of it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's part of living a very public life, and we understand that. But certainly, I mean, after 2 years of having these two individuals stalk us, troll our pages, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, I mean, please get a life. I mean, we have a very busy life. We have a lot of things on the go, and I mean, it's not going to stop us, but it's just, it gets to the point where it's very sad to see people living miserable lives, and they have to spread the misery just like they're spreading peanut butter and jelly on a sandwich.
Well, they're obsessed. They're obsessed, and it becomes an obsession, and the guy keeps changing his Twitter account names, his YouTube names, so he can keep trying to follow us. And even though we block him or whatever, and so he keeps changing names to social media accounts so he can keep following us and making little comments. And it is borderline harassment. His company needs to be contacted, because I mean, I'm pretty sure that with all the evidence we have against him at this point, I'm pretty sure that the security company employing him will be shocked at his online behavior.
I mean, I think if you're going to be a security guard or work in any kind of security field, you really have to be mindful on what you're putting out on social media. How many people have been burnt recently in the news about inappropriate tweets, comments on social media? It comes back to haunt you, folks, and you have to be held accountable for your actions, whether you're on the job or not, because once something is on social media, it's there forever, folks.
But this guy's a coward. He's definitely he likes to talk a lot of trash on the little comment sections. And he's definitely been after Alexandria now for about 2 years, trying to get into a relationship with her. And she's rejected him, I don't know how many levels. And his girlfriend's completely okay with it because she has no self-esteem.
That's another sad aspect of the story. I mean, clearly I'm happy in my relationship, and to have somebody continually at me and certainly can't take a hint. You know, obviously he's not happy in his relationship where he has to seek others through social media. Very, very sad and disappointing. But I mean, you know, people really should get a life. Maybe he should put all this energy into helping people, working at a soup kitchen or something, putting good back into...
Well, I mean, to continue to harass somebody and
that's clearly not interested.
And his girlfriend's definitely okay with it. And y'all were friends for actually 10 years.
For a long time, yes.
And so when you look at the fact that this guy basically broke up the friendship in after, you know, you being friends with her for a long time. But then again, what kind of person lives with their parents all the way into their 40s? I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. And they ended up meeting on some kind of hookup site on Facebook, because neither one of them, I mean, if you look at each one of them, they kind of, I guess, match up as far as, okay, they found somebody that would accept each other as far as their looks go. And you know, it's a sad situation.
I mean,
and we've been ignoring them for 2 years. For 2 years, and now it's time that we spoke out about it. We've gathered a lot of comments, a lot of information that we've been gathering over the last 2 years to build a case on this guy. And so now we actually finally are able to have a case against this guy. And so for just pure out harassment, we were going to let it go, but he started back up on the 29th of September of this year. And you know, dude, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are listening because you follow everything that we do, you're just a punk and a coward. I mean, you would never come up to my face and say any of those remarks. And that's a shame that you have to do that over the internet, over the computer.
Again, like I said, self-esteem, folks, is something that can be worked on, can be fixed. I mean, spend all that energy. Please make your own life happy. Don't try and make everybody else miserable if you're miserable. Move on. Clearly, I'm not interested in you, and it's nice to have fans, but when fans become trolls, that's when it becomes a problem, and, you know, really not trying to give any publicity, but it's a very sad case.
Very sad case. And enough talking about that trash. And you know, the guy, security company, he definitely can't chase nobody down. I mean, I think the only thing he'd be able to stop is a donut that's coming into the building or at the parking lot or whatever he's guarding. I have no idea. But he doesn't look to have the physical capabilities to stop anything but a donut. But enough about those trash. Let's move on. And so again, this lady, she has Spook-Eats, and it's going to be very interesting. You're going to want to listen to the show because she may have been to your state and into a restaurant in your area that you may not be aware of that's haunted.
Yeah, and I mean, she's been visiting haunted locations since her very first visit to Gettysburg in 2004. So since 2004, she's traveled to literally dozens of haunted places in the United States, and we're even going to ask her about her visit to the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, and also, if you can believe it, to the home of Robert the Doll in Key West, Florida. And I know there's Robert the Doll has been appeared on different shows, but we may have some specific questions. And
hold on for a minute. A lot of people might not know what Robert the Doll is. Robert the Doll was the model that the producer and writer and creator of Chucky used to create the doll Chucky after. He knew about the Robert the Doll story, and he went off and created his story based on Robert the Doll that's housed in a museum in Florida.
But what a unique way to kind of experience food, beverages, spirits, and haunted locations, and to be able to incorporate a blog. And again, Spook-Eats and Amanda Limpert will be joining us very shortly. But very unusual way, and what a way to visit all these different places. I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I know everybody will be most interested in some of the bars, cafe, restaurants, hotels, and in regards to the delicious food and the spirits that she's encountered.
I want to talk about the last show we did with Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker. They were recently in the Time magazine, and I want everybody out there listening to know you heard it here first on Tickle Trunk of Horrors podcast show. You heard it with us first, their stories, and you got to listen to their interview with us. And then here comes the Time magazine articles, and so I can't wait to see the movie Dracul, based off the book Dracul by Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker.
And I think it's going to be end up to be a must-read for 2018. I highly recommend Dracul, and please like and share our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel for a chance to win your free copy of Dracul, folks. So very, very great read. Highly recommend that book.
Exactly. And so our guest Amanda will be calling us here shortly.
And she's in New York. She's in New York. So for all of you that may not know that, she's in New York, and we're looking forward to touching base with Amanda.
Do we know if it's New York City or what city it is in New York?
I'm not quite sure. We can ask Amanda, but I know she's in New York. I'm assuming it's New York City. And look forward to hearing about her various tales and tastes from around North America.
Well, you can imagine doing Spook-Eats, as many mafia hits there was just in New York and the Manhattan area alone. There has to be a lot of Spook-Eats there, and I kind of wonder if she's done any of the restaurants where there was mafia hits at.
That may be quite interesting, because I know New York is a very old city in itself too, and again with that mafia touch, and there's been just so much that has gone on in New York City since 17, even 1600s. It would be a really melting pot of all these different energies, spirits, and a heck of a lot of good food, folks.
I'd like to recommend a YouTube channel for people out there that I just discovered today, and it's called Mob Sit Down. And it's a very good show, very good YouTube channel if you're into the history of the mob and things of that nature. And it keeps you up to date on things that are currently going on. And I was unaware that there was a trial currently going on with a guy that I thought was killed 10 years ago, but apparently he wasn't. Here comes our guest calling right now, so hold on for 1 second. Hello, welcome to the Tickle Trunk of Horrors show. You with Timothy, Mark, and Alexandria. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
We're good, we're good.
Good. We're super stoked to be able to talk to you, Amanda, a wee bit about Spook-Eats. Could you tell all of our listeners exactly what is Spook-Eats, please?
So basically, Spook-Eats is a website where we travel America visiting haunted hotels, restaurants, bars, cafes, bed and breakfast, and we go in, we review the food, and we also kind of share some of the ghost stories and experiences and try to have some experiences ourselves.
Now, Amanda, you're located in New York. Are you located in New York City?
I wish. No. I'm actually located in Buffalo, New York, which is right by Niagara Falls in Canada, so it's literally the complete opposite side of the state from New York City.
What we were just talking about, because of the business that you have, Spook-Eats, in New York City, there's a lot of restaurants there that have had mafia hits. Have you went there and done any reviews on those places?
I have not. I actually just got back from a trip to New Jersey, and I went into Manhattan for a day, and the whole time I'm like, oh man, like, where are the places that are haunted? Where are the places I have to go? And so I haven't gotten a chance to get down to New York City just yet, but I'm hoping in like the next few months to a year that I can like compile just a nice big list and just kind of like hop from restaurant to restaurant, because there's just so much history there and so much dark history there.
Well, how long have you been doing this?
I actually only officially started a few months ago. It's been kind of like mulling in my brain for a few years now as I visited different haunted locations, just for fun. And it wasn't until June, actually, that I was like, you know what, I'm going to get a website, I'm going to get an Instagram and a Twitter, and let's actually like sit down and do this. So we're still very new. But the response has been fantastic.
Okay, out of all the places that you visited since June, this is a two-part question. One,
okay.
which would have the best food, and two, which was the most haunted?
Ooh, I would actually have to go for best food. First of all, is definitely the Old Canal Inn. It's located in Nutley, New Jersey, and I just came back from there. I was there on Monday, and their claim to fame is the death seat. There's this chair at the bar that's actually like cornered off and everything. You can't sit on it. And according to the legend, 4 people have died of heart attacks after sitting in that chair. So Mark, the owner of the restaurant, came up with this burger called the Death Seat Burger. And it is a hamburger topped with mashed potatoes, jalapenos, and cheddar cheese, and then they beer batter it and they deep fry it.
Wow.
So it's basically, it's basically a heart attack on a plate. But that was the coolest thing I've ever seen at a restaurant, and like it was just cool that they took legends and turned it into something.
Amanda, what did you say the name of that restaurant was again?
It's called the Old Canal Inn.
The Old Canal Inn.
New Jersey.
Okay.
So, and then I would say for the most haunted, I'm probably going to be stereotypical because so many people talk about this place, but for me it has to be the Farnsworth House in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Their food is great, but just like the ambiance when you walk in is just super eerie and creepy, and I've done tons of tours there in the past. I haven't stayed overnight yet. That's like the next thing on my list. But I've definitely had weird experiences going down into the women's bathroom. I actually had the sensation of someone kind of like running up behind me. And it's so funny because I watch paranormal investigation shows and people will say, oh, it felt like someone was standing behind me. And in my head, I always think, like, you don't know what that feels like. But it felt like someone was rushing up behind me, so much so that I turned to see if it was, my mom following behind me or my husband also going to the bathroom. And it's this long hallway and no one was there. So that was kind of cool to have, like, a personal experience while I'm at the restaurant, because so many times I just interview people about their personal experiences, and I very rarely get the chance to experience something myself, usually
Right.
because it's regular business hours, it's loud, you can't really have an EVP session or anything, so it's kind of cool to have my own personal experience there, and I've been there so many times, and it's probably my favorite haunted place that I've visited.
When you talk about paranormal experiences, Amanda, for those of our listeners out there, are you a medium, a sensitive, an empath, and are you a paranormal investigator that have some of the tools of the trade?
I kind of consider myself a bunch of different things. First and foremost, I'm just extraordinarily curious. 3 years ago, my little brother did pass away after being diagnosed with cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And it was then that my curiosity of the paranormal kind of transformed into like this deep-seated passion. I have to know what happens after you die. I have to know if there's life after death. So that's kind of what really spurred this. And so when I go to places, I bring minimal equipment with me. You know, I have a digital recorder that I use for EVP sessions. I absolutely love EVP sessions, and I've gotten some great evidence there. And I also just bring a digital camera with me, trying to catch things. I'm on my own, investigation-wise. I don't have a crew. I don't have a team. So I work with what I have, and unfortunately the places I visit usually aren't the best to investigate during the day, during business hours. So I'm not necessarily an empath or a medium. I've been told by some people that they do get that vibe off of me, that I am open to things and sensitive to things. I don't necessarily think that. You know, I know people who are mediums, and their gifts are just astounding to me, and so I don't put myself in that category in any way, shape, or form. But honestly, I'm just a grieving sister looking for answers, first and foremost.
Let me just say first, the only team that you need is your husband. You and your husband can do everything with y'all's equipment. And the other thing, I kind of want to go off subject a little bit here, because I've had family members pass away from cancer too, and I was wondering, what type of cancer did your brother have?
Can you just repeat that again? My phone cut out. I'm so sorry.
I'm saying, I was wondering, what type of cancer did your brother have?
He was diagnosed with a sarcoma, which is a rare bone cancer, but he actually had a soft tissue sarcoma. They honestly have no idea what it was. They ended up calling it poorly differentiated sarcoma, aka they had no idea. So, but he ended up actually having miraculous surgery. They got the tumor removed from his chest and everything. But he died a few days later after heart failure, basically from the chemotherapy.
Wow. You mentioned earlier that you've captured EVPs. What's the most what's the worst, I guess, or what's the best EVP that you've caught?
Hands down, I know the exact one. I was investigating actually a local theater. So it wasn't with Spook-Eats, it was just independently with a group of investigators. It was a local theater that my brother actually was a member of. He basically grew up there. And I was down in the basement, going around and just basically talking to him while I was recording. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, if he was going to be anywhere, it would be here at this theater. So I was just talking to him and saying, no, let me know that you're okay. I just need to know that you're okay. And on the recording, about like a minute and a half later, I'm down in the basement and I just hear this voice kind of echoey saying, I'm fine. And it sounded like my brother when he was about 11, 12 years old, which was at like the height of his career, quote unquote, at this theater. So I thought that was absolutely amazing. And apparently the same night, one of the other investigators captured a photograph in the exact same area of what looks like an actual photograph I have of my brother when he was about 11 years old. He's got like long brown hair, this green shirt on, and you can, like, if you put it side by side, this photograph with the old family photo, it's mind-boggling. And so to have that to go along with this EVP that was an intelligent response to something that I asked,
right.
was just the coolest thing.
That's awesome. Because, we know that anybody that's in the food business, whether it be a cafe, restaurant, or a bar serving food, everybody likes to brag about their food, the creations. Do you find the same effect when you go in? You mentioned, of course, that you want to taste the food, but when you bring spirits, the strange, unusual, or even paranormal into the ingredient mix, that the tone or the attitude about the people that you're talking with changes just a wee bit?
Oh, absolutely. I get one of two reactions when I talk to people. I always reach out to the restaurants before I visit, just to make sure, because every so often I have had places basically refuse to let me come, and they just say, we do not want you, we don't want to advertise this, we're trying to not let people know that we're haunted.
Right.
Which is fine, I totally understand that. I personally love going to restaurants that are haunted, even if I wasn't doing spooky, but some people don't like that. But whenever I'm at these locations and I talk to people, they always start their stories with, you're going to think I'm crazy. And I just stop them right there. I'm like, I'm from Spook-Eats. Listen to me. I totally get it. And it's so funny because it's such a strange unifying bond. When someone has a unique experience that they can't explain, it's very isolating. And they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. So when they find out that someone else has experienced something similar, it definitely is this weird little bridge that, kind of unites us. And then we just start talking. There's been times where a crowd forms around our table because all of the wait staff or the general manager comes over and they all have stories to share, and then, the patrons and customers are leaning in to listen to the ghost stories. So I'm kind of surprised with how open people are with talking about it and how almost excited they get when they realize that they're not crazy. I believe them, and I'm curious to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, and to me, this is just my personal opinion. Because I've worked in the world of spirit since a small child, and you would think that any publicity is good publicity, especially if you're running a business. Even if it's a haunting, you would inspire, or you would want to captivate people to come and check the business out. Even if they only go there once, it's a customer that you may have not had before. And word of mouth business is, to me, word of mouth business is huge in that trade.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why I'm kind of surprised when places say, no, we don't want you to come, because that's my thought is you're going to get a whole new wave of people that are going to come to your establishment that might not have considered going to, a swanky 5-star restaurant, but if it's haunted by, a former, a sanitarium patient, then, you're going to bring in new people, and they could become regular customers. So I'm always disappointed when places say no and they kind of shoo me away, but the ones that do let me come and do embrace me, I appreciate it so much more because I do realize that not everyone is open to it.
Just let me say this, and y'all both are right, because I'm now interested in going to the Canal Inn to eat, because
right?
Because you went there and did the review, and actually that burger sounds really good.
It was amazing. I was very nervous. I do not I'm one of those people where, my mashed potatoes can't touch my meat, and my meat can't touch my vegetables. I'm very much anal in that way. So I was nervous going in, and it was one of the best things I've ever eaten. So it was awesome.
Yeah, because, going more to what you just said previously, I may not be apt to spend $100 on a meal that I may not have to go whip into Burger King after because I'm still hungry. But if there's a story about a horrific incident or a haunting, I may be more apt to say, okay, I'm going to splurge on that $100, not just maybe for the food, but just the opportunity of being in that particular atmosphere, because I'm an empath myself, and just walking in the door would be good enough for me just
Yeah.
to get a vibe from the place.
Yeah, it's like an overall experience, not just the food, which is what most people go for. You know, it goes even deeper than just the food or the decor or the service. So hopefully more places are willing to let me come and visit.
Now, one thing that we like to do on this show is we like to get to know our guests as far as like how they were growing up and stuff, because we're the Tickle Trunk of Horrors show, so we definitely would like to ask you some questions on like your childhood as far as when you were a kid, did you ever watch any horror shows?
I was a very naughty child. My parents wouldn't let me watch shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark or Beetlejuice or anything like that. So when I was very, very young, some of my earliest memories, I remember sneaking up to their bedroom where they had a TV and like watching these shows secretly behind their back. And then as I got older, they definitely calmed down and they realized like, oh, this is something that she's actually interested in and it doesn't scare her. So and then I just like went crazy with, you know, like Ghost Hunters when that first came out. I was in love. Like, that was a show that me and my brother would watch together. So from an early age, I've definitely been at least intrigued by, like, the macabre and the strange and unusual. And so it's been fun to be able to, like, actually do something in my adult life with me sneaking around as a small child watching Beetlejuice.
Was that your favorite horror movie or sub-horror movie, Beetlejuice?
Probably when I was younger, and then as I got older and I actually got into, like, horror and, like, paranormal shows, it definitely got more, not, I won't say violent, but Halloween is my all-time favorite, like, scary movie. I'm a Michael Myers fangirl, so I'm very much looking forward to the new movie coming out in a few weeks. But, yeah, like, I love your podcast name. When I read it, I was like, that is the greatest thing ever. So definitely a horror fan through and through.
Let me ask you this question. Speaking of Halloween, in Halloween, for Halloween, did you ever dress up and go trick-or-treating as a child?
Oh, of course. Over the years, I would do very innocent things like, oh, I'm a bride, I'm a pirate, I'm a belly dancer. And honestly, even now, I'm 28 years old now, and, like, I'm still, like, every Halloween, I have to have the best costume. I'm already, like, working on it, like, November 1st of, like, for next year. So I've always loved Halloween, and for as long as I can remember, I've been, you know, allowed to go trick-or-treating, and as I got older into being a teenager, I would, like, volunteer taking my brother and his friends trick-or-treating so I could still go, even though I'm 19, 20 years old now, and for whatever reason, shameful for an adult to go trick-or-treating. So I definitely tried to milk it for all it's worth over the years.
So two questions for you. What was your favorite Halloween costume, and what was your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, well, favorite Halloween candy, hands down, is Butterfingers. I love Butterfingers. Favorite costume? I'm trying to think. My most successful one, I'll say, is I was older, and I went as Hermione Granger for Halloween, I actually got this giant medical dictionary. It was probably like half a foot thick. It was super, super thick, and I actually hollowed the whole thing out and made it a Hogwarts textbook that would hold candy. And at this point, I'm probably like 20 years old, and I'm trying to go trick-or-treating. And the people would say to me, like, aren't you a little old? And then I would open up my textbook where all the candy was, and they would just think it was the coolest thing, and they would give me more candy. So that was my most successful Halloween costume, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think really Harry Potter and the Harry Potter series is really ageless. So, I mean, I think at any age we can pull off any character in Harry Potter, and I think that's absolutely amazing. Have you ever thought of, if you visited somewhere, have you ever gone in costume visiting one of the bars or cafes that you've been that you went to?
I have not. I actually, a few years ago, I was at the Stanley Hotel, and I joked with my husband saying, you should dress up as Jack Nicholson and not be Shelley Duvall, and we could run around crazy, but we didn't do that. We chickened out at the last minute. But I've never done that. I don't know if I would. When I was younger, I was really into, like, cosplay and things like that. But now I'm too poor. I can't afford cosplay anymore. But I've never even really considered doing that. So that's a very interesting thought.
I think that would give you a sort of maybe a unique kind of twist. I mean, what you're doing is already unique, but it would sort of give a different kind of twist to it that would, depending on what locale you are going to, you may just do something a little bit different that would fit in with the genre of where you're kind of visiting.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost kind of like a trigger object even.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're going to like the Farnsworth House, it's, you know, it was in the middle of the Civil War, dressing in Civil War garb, you know, it might stir something up. I don't know.
Let me ask you this question, because you talked about the chair at the Canal Inn. Is there the other restaurants? What other interesting items have you seen?
Ooh, that one was probably the most interesting. The next one that popped into my head right away is the Roycroft Inn. It's actually located where I am in Western New York. And it was kind of like a utopian society at the turn of the 20th century. Whenever I hear utopian society, I always kind of think of like cult.
Right.
So, and I'm still trying to like investigate, like, was it a cult? Was it a religion? What are we talking about here? But their big thing was that was the home of the arts and crafts movement in the early 20th century. And so they focused a lot on handmade goods. And so the Roycroft Inn also doubles as a hotel, and each of the rooms in the hotel has at least one piece of original furniture from when it was this, you know, little community. And it's just very cool to walk into these hotel rooms that are, you know, completely modern, and then you see this, you know, this coffee table or this rocking chair, and it has the Roycroft sigil kind of like involved in it, and it's really cool that they are able to have these physical things from not only their history, but also their haunted history.
Right.
That's something like tangible. You can actually touch it with your own hands. So I love that about the Roycroft Inn, where it was very much respecting and honoring their history and not trying to move on from it.
That's amazing. That's really, really amazing. And I know on your website, the name that kind of jumped out at me when I read it is in regards to a lot of our listeners or fans out there may be familiar with Robert the Doll. Did you take anything from Robert the Doll when you were in Key West? Did you kind of pick anything up? Or what were your impressions of that location in Key West?
I love Key West. It is one of my favorite destinations. You know, growing up, my parents would take us, you know, Salem, Gettysburg, Key West, all these places that are reportedly haunted. And the first time I heard about Robert the Doll, I was 10 or 11 years old, and I was absolutely petrified. I don't know why. Like, I don't love dolls, but I don't have a fear of them. But for whatever reason, I was terrified of Robert the Doll. And it wasn't until I was 21, so 10 or 11 years later, that I finally faced my fears, and I said, like, we are going to the East Martello Museum. I'm going to meet Robert the Doll. And going there, there's definitely something there. If nothing else, there is a heaviness. The minute you walk into the room where his exhibit is, whether you believe in the curse of Robert the Doll or the power of Robert the Doll or not, you don't want to take any chances. So you're going to compliment him. Oh, your lion is so cute. I love your sailor outfit. Can I take a picture with you? You know, you're going to show him every respect imaginable, let's be on the safe side. And it was the most interesting thing because when I was there, before getting there, I was ready to have a heart attack. I was so nervous. I was so scared. At 21 years old, this is pathetic. But as I was standing in front of him and I was talking to him, I was probably looking like a crazy person, but I didn't want to take any chances. And by the time I left, I felt like this weight was lifted off of me, that like I didn't have to be afraid because I respected him, and I do believe that there is some power surrounding the doll. So when I left, like I became like this Robert fangirl. Like I was like, I have an ornament of him on my Christmas tree. I have a button that says Robert did it. I actually did an investigation at the East Martello Museum, and we got tons of EMF detection, and K2 meters were going off all around his case. So there's definitely something there, and I love it. I love it there. I would go back in a heartbeat.
That's awesome. Have you ever, or have you, maybe have you considered taking Spook-Eats across the pond? Have you been to the UK? Because I know I grew up partly in Scotland, and I think you'd be so busy because I mean it's just a whole different world there with things being so much older. But have you ever considered taking Spook-Eats across the pond?
Absolutely. I would do it in a heartbeat. I've actually visited England twice now, but it was, before Spook-Eats was ever even a thought in my mind. So I am actually planning a trip to England and Scotland next summer with my family. It's like a little vacation. And I'm already connected with Haunted Magazine over there and Haunted Live over there, groups in Nottingham. And I'm like, I'm coming. You have to take me to places because Spook-Eats has got to go international while I'm over here. So I would do it in a heartbeat, and especially almost anywhere else in the world is so much older than America. Like the oldest places we have go back to the 1600s, maybe the 1500s if we're lucky. Whereas over there, they're like, oh yeah, this pub dates to the 12th century, and you're like, oh yes, of course it does. So I want to get over there so bad. If nothing else for the history, and there's got to be so much more activity and stories over there than what we have over here. No offense, America, you're great, but I'm hungry to get over to the UK.
Yeah, I would highly recommend. I've been to Scotland 3 or 4 times, and I would highly recommend, I'm not going to tell you the story, but in Edinburgh, I would highly recommend the Last Drop Inn is a place to have a spirit, whether it be spooky. They have excellent food there, but highly recommend. They're on the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, the Last Drop Inn, and it's an awesome place. And more back to North America or America, have you visited any locales in, because New Orleans is a pretty old place from the 1600s. Have you done anything there in New Orleans?
I haven't gotten down to New Orleans yet. That is like my spooky bucket list. Because I feel like New Orleans is such a food city, but then it's also such a creepy, spooky city. So I feel like it is spooky in like city form.
Right.
I want to get there so bad. It's like my next like big trip I have in my head after the UK. I've already warned my husband, like, we're going to New Orleans, and it's just going to be like a food fest. And we're going to go to all the haunted restaurants, and we're just going to get fat and have a great time in New Orleans.
Let me tell you this. We went to New Orleans, and we thought the same thing that you were thinking as far as food, right? However, unless you're highly drunk, it's hard to find a good restaurant down there to eat at. We were so disappointed in their gumbo and their food.
Really?
And we're talking about in the French Quarter. Now, I don't know about outside of the French Quarter. And we didn't hit every restaurant, but we hit a lot of the popular ones, and it was quite disappointing, actually.
I mean,
oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge gumbo fan, and I was really disappointed on the caliber of the gumbo. Like I said, it was just a few restaurants. I'm not knocking New Orleans, but the ones that we did hit in the French Quarter, I could have got a gumbo from the freezer section at my grocery shop that would have been on par with the same thing. But in regards to the atmosphere, that is the place to be. And I mean, we're gonna head back there ourselves, but it just the vibe of the city, because really the city breathes, and you can feel that pulse there.
Yeah.
Go there for the spirits, not for the food, because you'll be disappointed.
There you go. I'll avoid the gumbo.
Absolutely. So, just so our listeners can sort of get more of a feel, how can they get a hold of Spook-Eats? What is the best way to get a hold of you if they want to have you visit their restaurant, shop, or what have you?
So probably the best way to get in touch with me is just through email. It's very simple. It's just spookeats@gmail.com. So that's on the easier side. My website is spookeats.com. Instagram is just Spook-Eats. Facebook is Spook-Eats. And then Twitter is spook_eats. That's the only troublemaker. So any of those ways, I'm addicted to technology like most people my age. So I'm always checking things. But email is definitely the best way, spookeats@gmail.com. I'm always looking for new places to visit. I'm always traveling. My husband lives out in the Midwest, so we're always traveling back and forth between New York and Minnesota. And we're always looking for places to visit along the way. So if there's any haunted bars, restaurants, cafes, anything like that, we're totally open to stopping by and visiting.
Well, let me recommend one for you. I did a paranormal investigation at a pizza garden. It's called Austin Pizza Garden in Austin, Texas. And that I've been doing a lot of paranormal investigations over the last 10 years, and that right there is the only place that has actually terrified me. And it's,
really?
Yeah, that's the only location I've ever been at where I actually screamed. And
oh my gosh!
And I'm embarrassed.
Add this to the list.
Yeah, the Austin Pizza Garden, located in Austin, Texas, and it's like the gateway to hell or something.
Oh my gosh! So I'll just tell my husband it's a pizza joint. He'll love that, and then I'll warn him as he's eating the pizza. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, well, let me tell you now, they do have the best pizza. I mean, they got T-bone steak pizza. I mean, it's
Oh my gosh!
a really good pizza restaurant.
Definitely have to add that to the list.
You know, I think too, with Spook-Eats, you've really incorporated a must-have ingredient list for things that are really a hot topic today. And let's face it, who doesn't like food? I'm a food lover. Who doesn't like spooky or weird supernatural things? But I think you have a way of incorporating things into a mix to make a fantastic concoction, and actually without people realizing that they may be dipping their toesies in the paranormal. And I think it's fascinating. And a question for you, have you considered, or will you consider in the future, incorporating all your visits and sort of maybe into a handbook form?
Absolutely. That's probably the pinnacle of my dream for Spook-Eats. Because I know a lot of people aren't a part of paranormal investigation shows, but all these shows go to, haunted prisons and insane asylums and abandoned coal mines, and your average everyday person cannot go to those places. But you can go to a bar and get a pint of beer and see if you experience anything. You can go to a restaurant. So my goal is to be able to someday compile all the places that I've been able to visit into, like you said, a sort of handbook where the casual fan of the paranormal can visit these places and hopefully experience the paranormal for themselves.
Now, what we'll be doing is we have a group called Tickle Trunk of Horrors on Facebook, and we're going to be sharing your stuff on there. So we'll definitely be keeping up with you for sure.
Awesome. This is awesome. Thank you so much for reaching out. You guys are awesome.
I think, as soon as I had seen, what you offered on Twitter and then going into your website, I thought, you know what, she's really tapped onto something that could be a potential spiritual, even kind of a minefield, because, I mean, who everybody has to eat, right? We all have to eat.
That's what I always say.
So why not, work with something that people are doing each and every day, but give it a new twist, give it a new life. So really what you're doing is that you're giving these foods or liquid spirits a kind of life of their own, where you're taking it to another level, or you're giving it a little bit of oomph, more than just having to put it in your mouth. You're actually giving somebody something to think about, so you can enjoy that good T-bone steak, that slice of pizza, but you're also giving food for thought, and you're also going to create not a buffet for the stomach, but a buffet for another sense, which is the mind.
Yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot to hear.
So I would keep up with the good work, keep exploring the unusual out there, and I would highly recommend that in the future you do that handbook, you do that book, because inquiring minds really want to know.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, we appreciate you being our guest today, and when we get everything wrapped up, we'll send you the appropriate links, okay?
Great, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care, Amanda, and keep doing what you're doing. You're rocking it.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So it's a very interesting guest. I really like what she does with Spook-Eats. Her Gmail, spookeats@gmail.com, and
go to her website at spookeats.com. She's got a form, so if you got an interesting bar or location, fill it out and have her visit. Highly recommend. She's doing something. She's doing uncharted territory, folks.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're a haunted restaurant, you know of a haunted restaurant, send her a Gmail, spookeats@gmail.com, and let her know about it so she can get it on her list. So.
And that's what we at Tickle Trunk of Horrors like to do, bring things to you from the unbeaten, the path that is less traveled by everybody in the spiritual paranormal world, bringing you new, innovative ideas and things that you may have not have thought of, folks. And now we have Spook-Eats.
So thanks for joining us.
Take care, bye.
Take care, bye. And, to the stalkers and the trollers, get a life.